Excellent, very good. Good afternoon, my name is Pete Walen. I'm a software tester. Once upon a time, I'm not going to tell you what world I'm in, but once upon a time, there was, well, you saw Scott's history lesson on software development, right? You saw how everything just kind of worked, and we can blame apparently ancient aliens for why things are the way that they are. Now, before I get too crazy into this, how many of you work in an agile environment in some form? How many of you do not work in an agile environment? Okay. So there's 3 of you that are going to be paying very careful attention, and everybody else is going to see if I'm wrong. All right. If anybody thinks I'm wrong at any point, please tell me why. I do not look at this. It's getting late in the day. If you've been here since Monday for the workshops, you're probably as tired as I am, maybe a little bit more. I know my brain began melting sometime yesterday afternoon. It's amazing how much information some people just throw out, and it's like they never quite take a breath. It's like, dude, Jürgen, inhale just once, please. Inhale. Show that you do that. I've never seen anybody talk that fast and pack that much information into about an hour. It was just, wow. Except maybe for Scott, but... Well, Dawn, what have you been doing? Anyway, so most of you do work in some form of an agile environment, yes? Yeah. And so you know how cool and relaxed and comfortable that can be. This is my cat, Clover. She's one of 3 cats that we have, and she's stretched out in our yard, in our garden, on Clover. It's kind of why she's named Clover. She likes that spot. And Agile is kind of like that. We get to do things and just be relaxed and cool, and the world is good unless the world isn't necessarily good. Now, when I was talking about people not working in an agile environment, the title of the presentation, I didn't call any reference to that, partly because I've run into an awful lot of organizations that talk about, yes, we're agile, and you have to do this, 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 and I'm going, dude, do you understand what agile means? Some people do, I know. Some people I'm not so sure about. So, is there anybody here who remembers when programming texts or manuals used keys in the front of the book, or maybe the back of the book, that said, when we say blah, what we mean is something, right? Yeah? Okay. So when I pronounce the word agile, which is the way that my Canadian and British colleagues and many of you pronounce that word, I'm referring to an agile methodology. When I mispronounce it, translated, when I pronounce it as most of my fellow Americans, then what I mean is something else. I don't mean the methodology, I mean the word itself. And I'll be getting to that in just a second, so that's just a bit of warning. So I've got agile, meaning a methodology, and agile, meaning, I guess, a lifestyle, just being. This is actually Niagara Falls, if you didn't know. This is the Canadian Horseshoe Falls, and people tend to like using waterfalls as images for something that's unchanging. And that's great. Except waterfalls change all the time. And I'll get to that in just a minute. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but this, like I said, this is Niagara Falls, this is Horseshoe Falls. Right there, that's not a rock. That's a cruise boat that holds 200 people. That's the Maid of the Mist. Right there. To give you some idea of the size. You can see the motor car there, and those are along the road there are just people walking along. It's actually a pretty cool place. We all know about the Agile Manifesto and how we value some things over other things. We say that this is important, but these things are more important. We say that individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools, right? Is there anyone here who disagrees with any of those? Or would say, well, I'm not so sure. Good, you all agree. I don't need to go on and explain and waste my very limited time talking about that. Good. Then we all know that we are worried about developing working software and getting that out. And we're worried about working with people and collaborating rather than sitting down into long-winded negotiations. And that we have to be able to respond to change, right? How many of you who work in an agile environment have a hard time being agile? And that explains why so many of you are here, right? Okay, agile. There's a lot of ideas around agile. Notice why I'm not saying agile right now. There's a lot of concepts and things that get worked into being agile. And depending on what it is that you want to do, these are all reflecting on things. These are all reflections of what agile is, and in my mind, what agile is intended to be. I'm an American. That means I took this pair of definitions from Webster's New Standard Collegiate Dictionary. I don't remember the version. Agile, marked by ready ability to move with quick and easy grace, having a quick, resourceful, and adaptable character. When we're talking about agile methodologies and people working in an agile shop, how many of you would describe your shop with those definitions? How many don't think so? How many of you have I lost and you're not quite sure what I'm on about? Hyde, put your hand down. Yes, okay. I know this is the last track session. I'm going to just try and, I'm not going to lecture, I'm not going to yell, I'm just going to try and say, look, these are things that I've run into, and I'm going to try and be really light and kind of as bouncy as somebody my size can get. I haven't had nearly as much caffeine this week as Scott, so there's no way that I can go bounding around. At the same time, I don't really have books to give away either, so I got business cards, but no books. And if you find the mistake on the business card, yeah, there's a bug in my business card that was pointed out to me. The next time I meet you at a software conference, I will buy you a beer. Or a wine, if that's your drink of choice, since I didn't bring any books or anything to give away. The cool cats, we all know, are agile. They're also agile. They can respond and just kind of be comfortable anywhere. This is my cat, Pumpkin. I wanted to name him Squash, which is, there's a pun in there in American English, as opposed to Canadian English, or English. People say Americans are not multilingual. Ha! I'm fluent in American and Canadian and British. I can speak a lot of languages, eh? See? Waterfalls. Niagara Falls. Would anybody think of Niagara Falls, this big, huge waterfall in North America, as being agile in any way? Possibly. How about agile? Well, the people that said yes to being agile, I'm just kind of going, you know, I was talking about a software methodology. That's not software, that's hardware. Yeah, I'm being mean. But you see, in my mind, when we talk about agile or waterfall, we kind of forget something. And that really waterfall has got something going for it if you remember that that's what a waterfall looks like. All that stuff, all that white stuff, that's all foam that rises back up to the top. It spreads out and disseminates. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going down and feeding information down, but there's also a lot of stuff that comes up. If you're standing along where these people are walking, you are going to get wet. I've done it. You get really wet. So there's water being disseminated everywhere. It's being spread out. We should be doing that no matter what kind of methodology we're using. There should always be feedbacks, and I think people forget that the feedback loops that were talked about this morning tend to get lost, right? Any idea where this is? Yes, same place. That's Niagara Falls in 1846, in March. It is the only day that the Horseshoe Falls, because that's where that is, came close to freezing over, and that was because there was an ice jam further up the river. What's interesting, though, where those people were standing does not exist anymore in this picture. The horseshoe has gotten bigger since that picture was taken. In fact, the house there on the that you can see right up there, that's gone. That's fallen into the river. So I've got some questions, and please, if you have any ideas, because I'm looking for the answer to these. Why is it that some teams are successful when others fail? What makes a team successful, by any definition? You find some successful teams work with strong command and control models. Right? You get these big, heavy, we've got these strict mandates, we've got these templates, we've got these KPIs, we do stuff, and the software gets delivered on time, it works, everything is cool, people like it. In Scott's example, we put somebody on the moon and fly them back using those models. Where'd it go? There we go. Some successful teams work really well using an agile model, right? We know that. How many of you here work on a team that's agile that you would consider successful? All right, somebody. What makes your team successful? Oh, Lisa, fine. What? No, what? All right.
I think that the team I work for, they became successful because of their mindset, agile mindset.
Okay.
Because our team had some values about what is valuable for our customer. It's all.
Okay, I'm going to summarize and see if I got it right, and so maybe everybody else can hear. Their team is successful because they adapted a very agile mindset. They had very definite things they wanted to deliver, and they delivered them. Yes?
That's true.
Would your customers agree that you're successful?
Yes.
Do your customers have a choice in what software they use?
No.
Let's define successful. And the reason why I say that is because so many people say, yes, we deliver successful software, we're fantastic, we're great, this is fantastic. Really, would your customers buy your software if they had a choice?
Our customers don't buy our software, it was internal development.
Yes, I understand. I've worked for shops that do that, and I've worked for shops that try and sell their software. The emphasis was on try. Now, I've got one more question, and maybe you need to have a bit of gray in one's hair or beard like I do to be able to maybe think about this question. Why is it that the stuff that used to be called lightweight models is now agile? Anybody else? I'm sorry? XP, Lean, Scrum, those all started long before the Agile Manifesto.
What's the question? That's not a question, that's a statement.
Why is it that what used to be lightweight models are now agile?
There's a bug in it. The question mark should be in the end, right?
Because a bunch of people who had pioneered a lot of different lightweight models with different names thought they needed a common umbrella to be under.
Anybody else? People like defining things. Any other thoughts, concepts? I'm sorry?
Who said that this lightweight models, you mean XP and Scrum?
Yeah,
This is not agile?
they're not agile. Hey, is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying the exact opposite, but you ask why they are not agile.
No, I'm saying that why is it that the stuff that, when I was first introduced to them, they were called lightweight models, and now they're called agile?
Yeah, time goes on and things get a name.
Yeah? To get some attention? Yes. A more concise word, which, yeah, we have conferences about that, which is what Lisa was saying. To an extent, it's what Matt said, better marketing. Yes?
Because the word agile sends out a better message?
Possibly. I'm just, yeah. I would tend to agree, yeah. You know, Siggy, you know, I think there's a Coca-Cola waiting. Now, the problem is, my concern is that we came up with these solutions to save unicorns. That's my belief. Because in my estimation, heavyweight systems that were not successfully delivering software is what actually killed this unicorn. The Harry Potter book, the first movie, implies that it was Voldemort who did it. It doesn't actually prove it. Therefore, just like in the video that Scott Barber showed, it's a theory and nobody can disprove it. We only think that Voldemort, the evil, dark wizard, killed the poor, lovely unicorn. But is it possible that it is these models that we used that could be inflicting harm? I don't know. We need to think about why organizations have structures in place. We want to change things and make them better, yes? I expect that many of you are here to this talk to find out what you can do, because that is kind of what the title was, Thinking and Working Agile, right? Your environment may not let you really, or you may feel constrained. And typically those constraints come from somewhere, they come from something. And understanding that is, I think, the first step that you have to take before you can make any steps forward. What happened? Why are they the way that they are? Who would know that this nice, respectable-looking, clean-cut young man named Tom Riddle would, over time, turn into the greatest dark wizard ever, Lord Voldemort? In case you didn't follow the books, yeah, Tom Riddle was what Lord Voldemort was called when he was a kid. We need to find the understanding behind that. We don't know if those heavyweight models crushed the poor unicorn. I suspect they did. You need to find out why the process models that are in use at your organization are currently in place. Why are they there? Yeah.
Because software engineering was modeled after the classical engineering.
The mechanical engineering?
Yeah.
Okay, so at your organization, software engineering was modeled using the manufacturing engineering that, like Scott described. Yeah? In many shops, I think you're right. They said, we're trying to make this stuff happen. We need to make it repeatable and measurable. And they'll cite Lord Kelvin, and they'll say, you have to be able to measure things to understand them. Or they'll cite Drucker, who actually paraphrased Lord Kelvin, and they'll say things like, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, things like that. And then they'll cite Lord Kelvin. They'll go back farther, and they'll say something like, you need to be, I'm forgetting the quote now, but it's to the effect of, you need to be able to, if you cannot measure something, you cannot fully understand it, and you cannot know it. And they'll blame a statement like that on Lord Kelvin. What he was actually saying, though, was in the physical sciences, that's the part that always gets left off. He was talking about picking things up and physically handling them. The chair can be physically measured. We know what the exact dimensions of that are. Yeah? We know how big this room is. I'm not so sure about the way that software works. I'm not sure if that really holds. What is it that made them look at this? In your organization, I suspect they said, we need to be able to control this. We need to be able to have good measurements so that we can manage and make this work. And that's probably true for a lot of our organizations. I know it was true for organizations I've worked in, and in my current client, I know many of the reasons why they have the practices they have in place. We put a whole bunch of stuff in place to make things work, to make things better. Have things changed? And we talk about these heavyweight models and how unbending even our agile models are, and somehow, lo and behold, the problems go away. Except that work gets slowed down and stuff gets bogged down. And we say, how come we're doing this? It gets in the way of work. But you know what? I don't think any organization ever intentionally does things to keep work from getting done. For some of the same reasons that people have been talking all week about. We just want to make sure that stuff gets delivered. We want to make sure that no bugs get sent out and that everything is good. So they have this model in place. Has the organization seen any improvements with the model? I'm presuming that there were problems, that they said, okay, let's go do this. For example, sir, I'm going to pick on you again. You made the comment about manufacturing processes. Yeah? What were they doing before they did that, or did they do that right away?
It was a general comment, so it was not commenting on my specific situation.
Oh, on your specific situation. Okay. So some organization. Okay, I misunderstood. I apologize. Some organizations will come in and say, this is what we have to do, and this is why. Right? We've had these problems, and so we're going to go and take care of them, and we're going to improve them. My question is always, what do you mean by improvement? How do you know that improvement is even happening, or are you just kind of presuming? Do you say, we've got this stuff in place, there it is? If it's improving, how do we say that it makes it better? Pretty straightforward, right? It's improving, therefore it's better. Really? What do you mean by better? The other thing I do all the time is ask questions. And sometimes I don't know the answers. If you're looking to make things better, and you want to be able to deliver software better and faster and cheaper, are there other people in your organization who share your concerns, or are you the only squeaky wheel Are you the only one who thinks that things can be better? Nobody's putting their hand up on that one. Okay. You're bravely kind of saying, I think I might. Yeah, some metrics should exist.
Usually using some metrics which are showing the progress, should show the progress of the
Sure. They should, depending on what you may have available, yeah. Then the question becomes, is the process that you have in place making it better, or is it better in spite of the process? And that I don't know the answer to. And frankly, I don't know if anyone does. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It is a hard question. My belief is really quite simple. If we have processes that support what it is that we want to do, the whole manifesto stuff, we want to be flexible, we want to be healthy, we want to have a solid development organization, we want to be able to say, this is what we do. We make good software, we make it quickly, and we make it work. Then I think we can find ourselves with happy unicorns everywhere that don't get squished. Now, in the workshop that Matt and I did on Monday, we were asked about our definition of Agile. And I think maybe my answer is coloring my whole worldview, because we say this is this model that we have to do. And now it's going to get interesting, because for me, being in an agile or agile environment boils down to this: delivering the best possible software that we can deliver for our customers on time, and doing whatever it takes to make that happen. That's it. And the agile methodologies describe how we do that. Now, some people may say, but you're not mentioning this, and you're not mentioning this. And I'm saying, this is my strategy. For me, a strategy is an overarching plan. It is this thing that reaches out and says, this is what we do. And if you're working in a strict waterfall, ISTQB type environment, you say, but no, we have to do this, and we have to do this, and we have to do this. How many of you on Monday, when you go to work, are going to say, what value does this serve? If you're in an agile environment, in some form, if you're in a Scrum, an organization that follows some version of Scrum, because let's face it, Scrum can be adapted and modified fairly easily. If you've got stuff and you're not sure what value something is serving, would you say, why are we doing this? And I would suggest that if you're not certain, take a look at some of the questions on the previous slides and say, are these what's really driving the software? Are these practices that we have in place, these things that we're doing, are they what really is making the software better? Or is it because people are working harder and overcoming these things? I'm going to tell a short story, I promise, very short. And this one's true, unlike some of my stories. Company that I worked for about a year ago, we had a December deadline, and we had this huge project that had to be delivered on time. No argument. There was no way that we were going to be able to miss it. Everything had to be in place. And this was a huge organization. We were a very small team. We were a team of 8 testers. Some huge, massive number of developers. They said they were agile. Yeah, right. They had iterations. They had stand-ups. They had stuff. They were almost as agile as the beams across the ceiling. not very unbending. They were fixed. This is what we always do. We do this because we're agile. You've never run into that, I can tell. Okay, maybe I'm the only one. But you see, what they were saying is that we have to do this, and in their agile methodology, we had to have a test strategy, and we had to have a test plan, and we had to have test cases defined, and we had to have design documents, and we had to have, and I'm going, guys, are you really agile, or are you just saying you are? Are you just using the terms to make yourself feel better? That could explain it, Matt. Those who didn't hear, he said that's called an agile design document. And it had to be done in the first sprint, and then we worked on the agile test strategy in the second sprint, and then the third and fourth sprint we worked on, yeah. I'm not kidding. Except that isn't what we did. We cheated. We said, what do we need to do to make this done on time? We said, we need to work on this, we need to have an idea how we're going to test, we need to figure out what we're going to test, and then we need to get to it. So we did. And we jumped on it. And we jumped all over it. And because the project managers had their checklists for things that had to get done before we could check things in, the day that we finished testing 2.5 weeks early, we then turned around and began writing the test strategy, the test plan, and writing out all the formal test cases. The fact was, all the formal test cases reflected what we actually had done, because we kept records. 2 days later, everything was there, checked it all in. We got kudos. Oh, you guys are performing obviously at CMMI level 4 at least. This is amazing. It's like, okay, I now know two things. You don't know Agile, and you don't really understand what the CMMI modeling rankings mean. That's the fun part, Matt. Yeah, I don't think anybody really does. So that's how a team that I worked on approached it. We looked at it, what really needs to get done? I don't know if any of you have been in that situation, or if you have any ideas around that. Or if maybe everything's okay. Let me just ask really quickly. How many of you think everything at your organization is just okay? Is it good? Could it be better? What would make it better? Anybody? Yeah, no QA. I hate those. What else? Hybe, go away. Okay. Well, actually, beer may help. You know, we give beer to the managers, get them out of the way, and then we get work done. Okay, what else?
Shorter working day, more holidays.
Okay, shorter working days, more holidays, and somebody had something back here. Ah, that's an interesting observation, that all the teams in your organization work agile. How many of you work for an organization like I've worked for, and obviously like this nice gentleman whose name I've forgotten, I'm sorry. You were in the workshop on Monday and I've forgotten your name. I apologize. How many of you work in an organization where some of the teams are agile and the rest of the company looks at them and goes, really? Oh, a painfully large number of you. How many of you work on one of those agile teams and everybody looks at funny? Okay. How many of you wish you worked on one of those agile teams? How many of you have no idea why they have it because they're not really being agile? How many of you don't really understand because why they want to, or how many of you don't want to be on one, do not want to be on one of their agile teams because they're not being agile? No, I'm trying to get you to think. What my point is that sometimes we have agile teams, like I was talking about, that call themselves agile, that may be agile by some measure. Not some measure I would recognize, but by some measure they would be agile. And I would put forward that those agile teams are not agile. They are not able to respond to change. They are not flexible. They are not willing to adapt. They cannot deal with stuff that comes up. For me, that is typically the biggest reason why agile projects, agile processes fail. They're going through the motions. We call things agile without really understanding what they are. If we can understand them, and if we can make them work, then we really do get to have unicorns in the backyard. So, I don't have a question or a slide that says questions or discussion, but I think we're pretty close to that, even though we started a little bit late. We don't want the closing keynote to start late because we don't want Matt to get tied up. Lisa.
Why do you keep saying agile or agile? Was there some point to the different pronunciations? I mean that in the kindest possible way.
Agile, using the British and Canadian and typical pronunciation here, I'm using to refer to the methodologies. Agile, the American pronunciation, I'm using to refer to being flexible, being able to respond easily to change, being graceful, which is something I'm not.
I thought you were just saying 2 meanings for the word agile. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're good. I'm going to bounce back here, and there we go. That's a happy sign.
Mike needs the picture.
Okay, and I do want to say that the images used here from the Harry Potter movies are the copyright of Warner Brothers Entertainment, not the lame fan websites that I hacked them from, including those. That one was a generic clip art. I have no idea where that one's from. Yes. Now, we're at the part where we say, thank you. I hope you have had a wonderful time this week. I've had a marvelous time. I want to thank the conference organizers for asking me to come out and annoy you and ask questions that confuse everyone. What do you mean, what do I mean? You see, what's Stefan, yeah? Stefan. He's seen my business card. How many of you have QA somewhere on your business card? Yeah? Really? I've got QA on my business card too, but I've got other letters in between. My business card says question asker. I want to thank everyone for attending. You've been very kind to put up with me. I would be happy to discuss this if you have questions. I think we have time left. Yeah? A couple of minutes? Stefan.
An extremely short question. May I have your business card, please? I'm keen on that beer.
Yeah, I've got a whole stack of them up here if somebody wants one. Find the bug. It shouldn't take you long. It's pretty obvious. CB found it in about 10 seconds. Yeah? Oh, you've got one.
Yeah, but I haven't looked at it yet.
He's been in the bar. Okay, so while we're discussing business cards and things,
I have one, but I want to see the done.
please complete your evaluation form. There shouldn't be very many left in the back of your book by now. Say nice things. If you don't say nice things, that's fine, but yeah. Do we have questions? Yeah? No? Is everybody good with what I've been saying? We all understand. I'm sorry? Yes, and that's what I was hoping for. Yeah. My typical presentation style is to put out some stuff and then try and get people to discuss. You were very kind to play along. I know that model doesn't always work in some places. I appreciate your participation. Thank you. So, with that,